Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to a very special edition of Pivot Today on Hilal TV. With me, a very amazing, beautiful, dynamic, and courageous woman, Manal Tamimi. Manal is a Palestinian activist and human rights activist. She has defended working at the Colonization and War Resistance Commission. She is an international relations coordinator, an ex-prisoner, and a mother of four. In this difficult time, when we look at what is happening in terms of Palestine, the entire occupied Palestinian territories, the genocide in Gaza, our hearts can only, fathom or perhaps understand what the mind is really struggling to feel, to recognize, to even conceptualize. With that, I'd like to say Assalamu alaikum. Manal, thank you so much for being here with us
Wa
today.
alaikum salam. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my country and what we are facing under this brutal occupation. And thank you for the introduction.
Manal, when I speak to Palestinians today, it's like I just want to cry because we don't have words. So there is no way that we can express or we can share or we can even begin to understand what it is that you are feeling, what you're going through. And this didn't start now. It's 75 years and ongoing. It's a challenge. And I do believe that you are perhaps, alhamdulillah, I think the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're exceptionally brave and courageous. And I want to start first with your experiences. You say you're an ex-prisoner and a mother of four. How did that impact on your life and why were you imprisoned?
Of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to live under occupation. And to be honest, we endure what your experience, and we're not copying it, but we learn from Mandela's teaching, from your experience with apartheid. So you are, as South Africa, as a role model for us, and we learn from your experience. Under occupation, you can't be weak. You're not allowed to be weak. Otherwise, you will be broken in every minute and every second, because every minute there is a new thing happening. And under occupation, you are holding your soul in between your hand and your family. So you don't know whether if you go to your work, you will be back or not. You don't know if your son or daughter goes to their school, whether they will be back or not. Even in your house, inside your house, in the middle of night, you're not safe. Any minute, they could enter your house, they could break it, they could arrest anybody, they could shoot anybody. For example, the other day we were having lunch in my house at the kitchen, and suddenly we heard sounds of bullets, and one of the soldiers, he just he was boring and need
Entertainment.
sorry. And he shot 30 live bullet at the house. We were so lucky because the kitchen is in the middle of the house, so nobody was injured. As a mother, as a Palestinian mother, it's not just me, but any Palestinian mother, we are living this fear and worried minute by minute. As an activist, I choose my path and I choose the way to resist, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm ready to take this risk and ready to take everything or the responsibility for my decision. But when it's related to your children, you need to think 1,000,000 times whether this is deserved to put my children in such a position. Does this have an impact on my children? You know, we are mothers, but by the end, this occupation targeting us for our nationality, for our existence, for taking the decision to stay in our lands and not to leave. So it's not about whether you resist or not. It's not about whether you are an activist or not. It's about you as Palestinian. So if I'm weak, if I'm broken, I will transfer all this feeling to my children. By the end, they won't be able to live under occupation. They won't understand that you have to be strong because they saw me as a weak woman. And you know, the mother, she's like the main pillar of the family. Everybody take their strength from her. Everybody take their power from her. Everybody take their all the morals and values. They took it from the mother. Even the husband. If the mother, if the woman is weak, this is gonna have an impact on him. So, which is not easy. By the end, we are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
By the end, I have moment of weakness. I have moment of doubt. I have moment of fear. But by the end, I shouldn't transfer this to my family. So for for me, when I feel this, immediately I go to my room. It's either I read a book or sometimes even dancing or doing crazy things. Uh, we get many criticism that you are putting your children in danger. It's not us who are putting it. This is our life. This is our daily life. We teach them to be strong. It's like, you know, in India, they give the child small amount of snake poison
Mm-hmm.
to be strong in case they get a snake bite.
Right.
They're not attending to kill their children, but they want them to be strong. This is what we are doing. Uh, why I was arrested? Actually, I was arrested 3 times. All of them, I had fake charges. It was just because of my activism.
Mm.
The first time they shot a tear gas inside the house, so we tried to evacuate children. And the soldiers, they began to ask us to take the children back to the house, which means that they're gonna die. So we had fight with the soldiers and they arrested me. Of course, they faked 8 charges. One of them was uh, like using identified tool to kill a soldier or throwing a tear gas canister at a jeep, which I don't have. So eventually there were a video shot by Al Jazeera and it shows everything happened since the beginning till I was arrested. And I was released after 2 weeks. The second time, they arrested me after midnight, 3 in the morning, and it was a complaint issued by an officer saying that I tried to stab him in front of a settlement. So, and easily they asked for 7 years. But I was again so lucky that the day he said that I tried to stab him, there were a video for an activity in my village. So my lawyer shows the video that Manal, she is in Nabi Saleh, and you said that she was in Ramallah. So how come she will be in 2 places in the same time? So I was so lucky. And the third time, it was my 2 sons' court. So I went to the court to see them. I wasn't allowed to see them, and they went through a very difficult torture interrogation. One of them, he has a like temporary memory loss, and the other one, he was evacuated 2 times to the hospital because of torturing. So I went to see them, and on my way, they stopped me at the court entrance. They attacked me physically, that they broke my jaw, and of course, other many other things. and they arrested me, saying that I tried to organize illegal activity in front of the court. So they kept me for 1 week for this, and then my jaw began to bleed. I didn't get any medical treatment, and my face was swelling like this. And by the end, they took me to the prison clinic, which is actually, it's not clinic. It's they practice torturing more the interrogator themselves, and they gave me kind of medicine which they said it's a painkiller, and I don't know what is it. It caused bleeding in my stomach, so I was bleeding blood. I was like, my face, it was like this, and eventually they had to release me because this could more problem for them.
So we have to go to a break. When we come back, then I want to ask you just a few questions about your activism in terms of the wall, but I want to comment something in terms of the children and the fact that Palestinians ultimately love life. So we'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the second segment with my very special guest, Manal Tamimi. As Manal was speaking, I couldn't but help myself as the tears were just coming out of my eyes to think about how do you make this compromise? Choose between your life, your children's life. Ultimately, at the end of the day, everything, is still hanging in the balance. Your life and their life means nothing to the occupiers. So what you do, whether you defend them or don't defend them, at the end of the day, there's very little left for you in terms of the choices that you make. Now, Minal, you spoke about you have to make a decision for you or for your children. But at the end of the day, if you're not an activist, if you don't stand up to this occupation, the occupation is still going to kill your children.
Yeah,
if
true.
you're an activist, it's going to kill your children. In many ways, it looks like a lose-lose kind of situation, but you look at it as a win-win situation. It is about you not surrendering yourself
Yeah.
to that inhumanity, to that indignity. You keep your dignity intact. You will fight. But when you come to this point, do you at any point sit down with your children and say, look, this is the situation. This is what I'm going to do. These are the possible consequences. Are you prepared for what might happen?
Yeah, of course. We did this many times, especially in my village. We used to do protest against settlements and colonization every Friday after the afternoon break. So we did courses for the children because they began to be used by the occupier as a punishment for the families. So they began to arrest children for different reasons. If the family are activists, if they want to incriminate one of the activists and they couldn't find any evidence, the easiest thing to arrest a child, force him to sign paper written in Hebrew, which it's a language he doesn't understand, taking his DNA, fingerprints, all this, creating criminal files, keep him sometimes for 2 or 3 days without eating or sleeping, denying all his rights of having a lawyer, having his parents, because according to the Israeli law, the parents should be with the child, it should be audio and video recorded, which is always denied. So we began to do legal courses for the children to teach them what is their rights. The most important, the right of silence. Don't say anything, just keep silent. We stimulate the interrogation, that we brought a real interrogation recorded for a child to show them how the interrogator deal with the children. Their tunes and all this way they are using, so they will be familiar, because it's like going inside the tunnel. If it's dark, you will be lost.
Yeah.
But if someone told you before that Go to the right, there is a way. Go to the left, there is something. Don't go direct or straight, and so you will be familiar. This is what we did. Another thing we did to empower and strengthen children, that we began to do something we called it camera therapy, that we did 2 camera workshops to teach the children how to use the camera as a tool of resistance, not, because resistance is not just direct action, and also to document all the soldiers' movement in the village. We know that everywhere there is a camera and somebody gonna shoot what's really happening. And by the end, we gave them cameras as a gift, and we did 2 exhibitions for their photos, one in London and one in Ramallah. So it encourage them that, okay, that my camera is very important. Another thing we did, that you can't keep talking about concepts like freedom, dignity, equality, and all this under incubation, because children, they never experience these things. So they won't understand what does it mean dignity, what does it mean freedom. So we did summer camps for the children in France, in Italy, in Spain, and even here in South Africa. We did it once to send the children to these places. So they, for 2 weeks, and to see what is the sea. For example, we have a sea, but we're not allowed. The sea is only 20 minutes from my house, but we're not allowed to go there. So to teach them what is this concept. And once I asked one of the children after they came from France, and how was it? He said, it was great. There were no checkpoints at the streets. Soldiers were standing and police, but they didn't do anything for us. So this way they came with more energetic to resist. And so yeah, this is things we did for the children in my village in Nabi Saleh. But by the end, it's still not easy, because children inside Israeli prison receiving torturing and brutality as much as the adults. Since October 7, now children are denied to see their parents, denied to see a lawyer, denied to see even any of human rights organization. Children, according to the Israeli law, children's section, minor section, should have a Palestinian adults to stay with them.
Yes.
But since October 7, they took no adults with these children. And according again to the Israeli law, which says that they can put Palestinian children from 11 to 14 years up to 5 years in prison for throwing stones, and from 14 to 17 years up to 20 years in prison for throwing stones. So there are some children who are spending long time in prison. So after they take out the adults, they began to target children. They began to put these children with Israeli criminals,
Sure.
with the drug dealers, with and these criminals, they began to attack children physically, because for them these are terrorists, and there's no guards, there's nothing, and even the guards, they give them the red light, the green light, do whatever you want. Food is very bad, quantity and quality. They only have 1 spoon of jam every morning. That's it for breakfast. A small cup of rice that is only soaked with water and not cooked. And most of the time, there's no dinner. So they give them food barely just to stay alive. Water, most of the time, they have no water, and they are allowed to take a shower once a month. Even they're not allowed to change their clothes. Some prisoners told me that we stayed in the same clothes for 4 and 5 and 6 months. In the same, so when they are allowed to go to take a shower, they have only 2 minutes to take a shower, wash their clothes, do whatever they want in 2 minutes. Then they cut the water.
Okay, so we have just a minute left. In 1 minute, I want you to tell me very quickly, what it is that you want the South Africans to do in order to support your activism and to support freedom for Palestine.
First, I would like to thank everyone, special thank for each South African person for what they are doing, because actually what they did by taking the Israel to ICJ, there's no country in the world ever did this. So it was very courageous and very unique decision to do this. As I said, that we are sharing a lot together. As you were under apartheid and we are under similar apartheid. And since I came, the movement, the grassroots movement, the activism here, I was really surprised about how they are dealing with the Palestinian cause and everything. But unfortunately, all this, it's not just in South Africa, also worldwide, all this movement from civil society, grassroots movements, and it didn't change the government's policy.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, we still see governments, far right-wing governments being elected. And this is also happened in South Africa, the coalition now after the last week election or the last elections. It's also been with the right far wing. So I hope that one day all these movements will bring peace to Palestine, because as long as there is occupation in Palestine, there were no peace in the world.
That is true. And that is what Nelson Mandela said, that our freedom is incomplete until the freedom of the Palestine.
Until the freedom of Palestine.
Thank you so much for this time, for sharing these wonderful thoughts to me. I would like to have another discussion with you. Inshallah, we'll have the time. But for now, I think we have a lot to think about. And as mothers, certainly this is overwhelming. Please think about how you can contribute, what pressure you can exert on the government and on international global movements to force an end to the genocide and to the end of the occupation. Fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.